Untitled Pilates, and this video we're going to focus on quite a bit of oblique stabilizing and strengthening with some side lying work. So we'll do a little bit of hip stuff, but it'll primarily be about that side line of the body. We need a pillow for today. So block or an inflatable ball or a rolled up towel, and then we're gonna lay on our side on top of your block or prop, whatever you have. So we'll start head on the prop, knees bent in towards the chest. Make sure that shoulder is underneath you versus coming way forward and opening up the chest towards the ceiling. We want to get stacked shoulders and hips. And then as the knees are in towards the chest, try to keep the tail untucked and the top hip reaching long. Heels squeeze together, and we're going to clamshell. The top knee spirals up to the ceiling or lifts to the ceiling because we're spiraling the thigh into external rotation in the hip joint. And we're going to do that for about 6 more times. As you're doing this, noticing as the knee lowers down, if you can reinvest in that seat of the thigh into the hip joint, and we'll go for about 4 more. I like hand either on the hip to keep reaching long, or I kind of prefer at the back of my kind of pelvis, the right side of the pelvis, to feel that seat of the thigh. And then we're gonna lower down from here. So top hand can come to the mat. Both legs are gonna reach long underneath you, getting that stacked position here. And then without tucking the tail, bring those legs forward to the front corner of your mat. We're gonna reach really long through the top leg, so much so that the leg floats up in line, heel with hip. So keeping a flex through the top foot, we're gonna swing the leg forward in your side kick, and then point the toes, swing the leg back. And as I go forward and back, I'm trying to keep the height of my foot at the same height, so not lowering or lifting as I go forward and back. And then in the pelvis and the spine, I'm trying not to move. So as I go forward, avoiding tucking the tail, and then as I point the toes and swing the leg back from the high hamstring, low glute, avoiding arching the low back. Last time forward and back, and then we'll stack the legs and lower down. The prop is going to come out of the way. I'm going to move it behind me so it's not in your field of vision or not in the way. And then we're going to bring the hands behind the head, interlacing the hands behind the bony part of your skull. And now, as we find this position and we reach long through the top leg, it's going to be a little bit more work for the obliques to stabilize as we repeat that side kick. So we flex forward and then point the toes, swing back. Notice here if the chin wants to start jutting forward to compensate for abdominal stabilizing, we'll tuck the chin under and feel those hands tractioning the head and neck really long. We're gonna go for 3. I feel a ton more abdominal work with this one versus being more targeted to the hip. Maybe that'll be true for you as well. And then we stack the legs, lower down. Nice. So from here, the bottom arm is gonna go long with the palm facing the floor. Just let your head rest on your hand, and then top hand can support as the legs come back underneath you, top arm reaching to your feet. So we feel those arms reaching actively in opposition and the legs squeezing together. You're gonna reach long through the legs, so much so again that they start to float off of the floor. And then from here, we're gonna start to side bend through the waist. So that top side is shortening, but I'm really focusing on getting knees, feet, and this bottom arm to reach as long away from each other as possible. And then we'll lower down with control. We're gonna do that 4 more times. Find that reach of the arms, and then try to keep those shoulders settled out of the ears, pressing through the back of kind of the shoulder, back of the armpit, through the pinky side of the hand into the floor on the bottom arm so that we keep that bottom shoulder supported as it is supporting in that side bend. Good. And we'll go for 2 more. Try to really squeeze the thighs and then float up. And then last one, we're gonna do one more time just like that. trying not to rotate back on your hip or forward on your hip. Try to stay right through center and then lower down. So the next thing we're gonna do is our side teaser. I'll show you one and then we can do 3 together. So side banana first, we reach long and lift into your side bend. And then from here, you're gonna rotate back off of your side body onto your sacrum. And then you're gonna float the thighs towards the chest, either in that straight leg side teaser or knees can be bent. And then with either position of the legs, we'll follow that bottom arm back to the floor. If you're on a slipperier surface, you might slide a little more gracefully than I just did. This mat is pretty sticky, so do your best. You're gonna do 3 with me here. So squeezing the inner thighs, reach long in opposition through that bottom arm and the top arm and legs. Side bend first, and then pull the thighs towards the chest. Rock back, balancing on your sacrum, just off your sit bones. And then we lower back down, using that side waist to control the descent. Find that exhale, side banana, and then float the thighs towards the chest, and then lowering back down. So a lot of abdominals working to find that side banana, and then rotating back off of the back onto the sacrum. A lot of hip flexors as well. We're gonna hold here. Add that float of the bottom arm to match the top. Legs can again be bent or stay straight for another inhale. And then as you exhale, you're gonna bend both knees and plant the bottom hand, rock onto that bottom hip again to find your Z-sit. So in this Z-sit, what was our bottom leg is an external rotation in front. What was our top leg is an internal rotation to the side. We're gonna side bend away from what was the bottom side, big stretch through the bottom waist. And then you're gonna cartwheel the arms, plant that bottom arm down, and then side bend up and over to the other side. And we're gonna do that 2 more times. Cartwheeling the arms up and over. And then as we're doing that side bend, focusing on that pull of the bottom side away from the floor, the flaring or that stretching of the side body on the top side. 1 more time each side. And then last time. Okay, so coming all the way up, we are gonna do a little side bending with twist on this side. So that bottom arm that was stabilizing in our side banana is gonna be the stabilizing shoulder again. So if that shoulder is starting to feel any funkiness, I'll cue you to stick with the first variation we do, where there's gonna be less demand on the shoulder. If it's feeling pretty good, you'll build to the whole thing with me. So the bottom hand is gonna come to the floor. Your front leg is gonna come behind your top leg. So now we're back in sort of that external clamshell shape of both legs actually this time. And I want you to use that outer hip on what was your top side. So the leg that already did your clamshell, you're using those same muscles to spiral the knee up towards the ceiling as you plant down really actively through the foot. And then the top arm is gonna reach long to the side. You're gonna press through this top leg and lift the hips and side bend through the waist. And as we come here, make sure that we don't lose that outer hip and the knee tracks forward. Keep that feeling of these ribs gathering as we get that spiral of the outer hip, knee lifting up. And then you're gonna hinge at the hips and lower back down. So let's do that 2 more times, pressing through the bottom arm, lifting away from the floor, noticing here if this bottom shoulder wants to round forward, keep it plugged in, and then lower it down. And then last time like that. Big stretch and lower. All right, so another 3 just like that, keeping this bottom leg down and be less demand for the shoulder. If there's any precarious feelings or a little vulnerability through that shoulder that's supporting you, stick with what we just did, or maybe do another couple rounds of your mermaid if you want to stretch instead. We're gonna go to a little wider stance, so bringing the feet a little bit further from the hand. Top hand comes reaching long again. This time, find that same outer hip wrap, press through the top leg. We're gonna lift up and straighten our legs this time as we come into our side bend. So try to squeeze those inner thighs together as you pull these bottom ribs away from the floor. And then bend the knees, flex at the hips, lower down. 2 more times like that. Press down through the bottom arm, lift up, and then lower down. On this next one, we're gonna stay up. So finding that side bend, I'm in an arc of my body here. And then from here, we're gonna take that top arm to the ceiling and lower the hips down so I'm in more of a side plank. And then from here, we're gonna thread the needle, rotate the ribs around the spine and open up just for 2 more. If that bottom leg needs to come down, that bottom leg can come down. We're gonna go 1 more time like that, rotate, and then open up, and then bend the knees, flex the hips, lower all the way down. Find that Z-sit 1 more time, and counter stretch, side bending away from that bottom side that did so much work to hold you away from the floor. Roll out through the wrists that just did a ton of work to hold you up. All right, we've got side 2, so grab your block again. We are going to lay on your other side. So clamshell first, knees in towards the chest, trying to avoid the tail tucking under or the chest rounding, so not rounding through the spine, maintaining your neutral on your side, top hip reaching long, bottom ribs lifting up, and we clamshell. Take the knee up towards the ceiling, and it's coming from that spiral, external rotator spiraling that thigh into external rotation in the hip joint. I have very little external rotation. You might be going way higher than me, but I want you to just go as high as those hips stay stacked. And really, I always try to focus on that seat of the thigh and then spiraling from those tiny, tiny muscles versus using the other larger muscles of the hip to compensate for those tinier muscles working. Last 2 and last 1. Lower down, top hand to the mat. We'll reach the legs long underneath you. And then without tucking the tail, bring the legs forward. So flexing at the hips, we take that top leg super long so that it floats. And then from here, flex the foot forward, point the toes back, flex forward, and point back. And again, making the range of motion in flexion as you go forward and extension as you go back, just as big as you can keep the pelvis neutral. So avoiding, again, tucking under as you go forward or arching as you go back. Last time. And then you're gonna swing your leg forward, let the leg rest down. We're gonna take the prop out from under the head. And then we are again going to cross the hands or interlace the hands and bring them behind the head. So again, traction the neck long, keep that tuck of the chin. We wanna make sure, especially here, that the hands aren't pulling the head forward of the rest of the spine. So keep that alignment. And then from here, lengthen through the top leg, more oblique stabilize to flex forward, point the toes, swing back. And one side, this side feels so much easier. One side might feel vastly different from the first side. Oblique stabilization and strength is often a little different, one side versus the other. So just noticing if you need to make the range of motion smaller or if you can go a little bigger. Pelvis stability, the main goal. Bring the leg underneath you and lower down. That bottom arm now is gonna go palm facing the floor. Head rests on the hand or on the arm, and then top hand to the floor to bring the legs right underneath you. Top hand reaches to the feet, so arms are reaching in opposition, legs squeeze together, and then from here we're gonna float into your side bend. So asking that top side to shorten and float you up and then lower down. And as we get into side 2, another thing that might feel different is that ability to stay on the side of your hip. It might feel a little bit trickier to avoid rotating the pelvis back or forward. So just lift, again, as far as you can maintain that stability. that stacked hip position. We're gonna go 2 more times. Feel that anchoring through that base of the bottom armpit so that shoulder stays happy. Last time, lifting long and then lowering down. So you've seen your side banana on side 1. We'll just do 3 on this side versus the 1 kind of to watch and then 3 to do. We'll do 3 together. So reaching long through the legs, arms in opposition, we float into your side bend. Then from here, draw the thighs towards the chest, rock back off of your side onto your sacrum, find that half teaser, and then follow the arm back down. Top side obliques are your break. And then we find that side banana first. Good. And then rotate back onto your pelvis and then follow back down. This mat is so sticky. Great for yoga. It's not very good for this side banana to teaser. Last time, reaching long and then pulling the thighs in towards the chest. Again, bent leg or straight leg. We're going to float the bottom arm. Find that hold for another 2 breaths. Little shaky on this side. Hip flexor is getting tired. You can go bent leg if you need to. And then we'll all bend the legs and rotate onto our side for our mermaid. Taking an inhale. Exhale, side bend away from the bottom side. And then cartwheeling the arms, plant the bottom arm down, and big stretch for the top ribs. That side banana into side teaser is one that no matter how many times you do it, gets a little easier to maybe organize, but then some days you get back into it and you're like, this feels just as hard as day 1. And then we're gonna do that cartwheel 1 more time each side. So we'll end here with that bottom arm planting down, big splaying of those ribs towards the ceiling, and then stacking the spine back up. So we're gonna bring what is your front leg behind the top leg. And then we did our clamshells on this side, so using those same muscles to spiral the knee up, the hand is gonna plant down and the top arm reaches long. So feel these bottom ribs already gathering away from the floor. You're gonna press through the top leg, bottom leg stays down, side bend up and over, really focusing on the arc of the spine, the side bend of the spine, and then lower down. Let's do that 2 more times. Counting is always the hardest thing. Remembering the reps that we did on side 1, and then last time. Again, as we lift here, watch that shoulder wanting to round forward. Keep grounding through that pinky side of the hand up through the base of the armpit so that as we go to the straight leg variation, we have that stability through the shoulder. So one shoulder might feel different than the other. If this one feels more vulnerable, you can always stick with the bottom leg staying down. Otherwise, we'll take that stance a little wider and then top arm reaches long. Wrap that knee up to the ceiling, press through the top leg. This time, legs straighten as you side bend. And then bend the knees, flex the hip, lower down. 2 more times like that. Lengthen long, feel that lift to the bottom rib away from the floor. And then last time, we're gonna find that side bend first. So we side bend away from the floor, we arc the spine, and then we bring the top arm above the shoulder. Make sure it doesn't come behind, keep it stacked. And we lower the hips so we're in more of a long diagonal. And then we thread the needle. Rotate the rib cage and spiral open. As you spiral open, watch that shoulder doesn't jut forward. 2 more times, that bottom knee can come down if it needs to. Last time. And then spiraling open, knees bend, hips flex, lower down, bring that bottom leg in front again, and take that cartwheel of the arms up and over to the other side, rolling out through that wrist. That just did a lot of work to hold you up. All right, bringing everything down. That is it for that side lying, oblique, stabilizing and strengthening video. I'm out of breath. It's a good one. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions, please, as always, leave me a comment. I will answer your questions to the best of my ability. And if you like this video and want to see more, I'd love for you to subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.